trolling Senator Elizabeth Warren as a snake, and in post after post, labeling Mayor Pete Buttigieg a rat. Two victims of this tell CNN they were so afraid of the online attacks they faced, they don't even want us to describe the circumstances for fear it would start up again. They both just questioned the politics of Bernie Sanders in a public setting, and their personal lives were exposed and attacked.
Well, just what Nick said, I think that's right. I mean, there is no Democratic establishment anymore. There's not even a Democratic Party anymore. The Democratic Party is a meaningless notion that the party, like the Republican Party, has been hollowed out and privatized to a large extent. There are Democratic elites, and so when we're talking about the Democratic establishment, we're really talking about a number of, a bunch of people that Nick also knows well, which really means Democratic donors.
This is the most important election in the history of our country.
This election is the most important in the modern history of this country.
The election in 2020, without hyperbole, is going to be the most important election this country has undergone in over 100 years. Not a joke.
This November's elections are more important than any I can remember in my lifetime, and that includes when I was on the ballot.
There are just 8 days left in what is the most important election of our lifetime.
Where did you guys come to a conclusion about why Clinton had such a hard time just owning that she did something wrong with the email server?
You know, I know that Russia and other forces would love us to have a debate. This is exactly what they want. They want us to have a debate about the internal structure of Hillary's campaign, what's true, what's not true. And I'm just not going to play that. I'm sorry.
Yes, we came, we saw, we died.
I was the CIA director. We lied, we cheated, we stole. It's like we had entire training courses. It reminds you of the glory of the American experiment.
You know, people have said, if you look at, for example, the heat that ended up around the bend the knee of Colin Kaepernick. Mm-hmm. Many smart people have said it actually was not a thing. The Russian bots started taking out. Yes.
But I saw my mom. My mom is the strongest woman I know.
She should be running.
It's not about.
If you're like me, one of the millions suffering from pain caused by migraine, Nurtec ODT may help. It's the only medication that can treat a migraine when it strikes and prevent migraine attacks.
Trump and the Republicans lose on Tuesday, and if they lose badly, it's not going to be because of the left, whatever that means. It's not because of the 50 Antifa black mask guys who roam around the United States breaking windows and committing mayhem, most of whom are probably paid police informers.
Most of whom are probably paid police informers.
Rudy Giuliani, there's only 3 things he mentioned in a sentence, a noun and a verb and 9/11. I mean...
I'm going to try to get through this. Thank you for what you did 3 years ago today.
And I went to Wall Street in December of 2007, before the big crash that we had, and I basically said, cut it out.
And now I want to hand it over to the president of Ukraine, who has as much courage as he has determination. Ladies and gentlemen, President Putin. If we finally beat Medicare.
Thank you, President Biden.
This version of Biden, intellectually, analytically, is the best Biden ever.
He is sharp, intensely probing, and detail-oriented and focused.
They're eating the dogs, the people that came in. They're eating the cats. They're eating the pets of the people that live there. And this is what's happening in our country.
I can't do it.
We'll do it live. Okay. We'll do it live. Fuck it. Do it live. I'll write it and we'll do it live. And thing sucks.
In 5, 4, 3.
Citizens of the internet, we have returned for yet another exciting episode of the Politics Show, and we have a lot of great stuff for you today. So let me scoot over a little bit here, get myself a little more centered. It has been a wild couple of weeks. One of the probably the last thing we're going to talk about today was kind of the biggest dichotomy that I saw that I don't think a lot of people are really talking about this past week. And that was the fact that Dick Cheney died on the same day that Zoran Mamdani was elected. And that's, to me, that's like almost like it's almost like the gods trying to tell the Democrats something. It's almost like, spiritual forces in the nether realms are like, hey, Democrats, look what happened today. Dick Cheney died and a quote unquote socialist got elected as the mayor of New York. And if you watch that at all, I'm not from New York. And so I tried to stay out of the fray on that as much as possible, but it's kind of hard not to when it gets made into a national election or a national issue, a local election. And New York, let's be honest, is the biggest, most populous city in the country. So it is relevant. It's also the country with the largest Jewish population. And the line against him was he's an anti-Semite. They literally brought out the Douglas Murray thing.
You're an anti-Semite.
And that's just not working anymore. So it's a beautiful day in America. I know a lot of people are doomsayers, I guess. But I'm optimistic. And I think as we go through today's topics, you're going to understand why. Because people are done with being divided into groups. I think the internet has enabled these conversations where you can't just squash someone out of the debate anymore by calling them a racist or a Putin puppet or whatever you want. And, I'm really happy about that. And I don't think, and I'll say this again and again and again, you would have seen the dynamic that's going on currently had the Democrats won the last election. So that's where I'm at with all this.
I tried so hard and got so far.
Let's get into today's first topic of discussion, and it's the banner story. Candace Owens, the new face of white supremacy. And wow, what a scary one it is, right? I think so Candace has been going hard on the Charlie Kirk thing, which is good because that's totally a weird story. The official story is complete bullshit. And I think that's one of the reasons she has such a massive audience right now, because the official narrative in the press has kind of stayed the same. But I wanted to start today with kind of a piece that she did on her most recent show about an interview that she did with CNN. And it's interesting because the woman who did the story is this woman, Elle Reeve, who recently did an interview with Tim Dillon. And Tim Dillon, if you'll remember, his whole thing was, hey, just release the full interview. It was, and I don't want to relitigate all this stuff, but Tim basically went into this whole thing about how, they're trying to like paint him and Rogan and all these people as the right, and the new establishment and this kind of stuff. But that was kind of when I first caught wind of this woman and who she is and kind of what her role in the mainstream media space is. And let me show you that right now, because this is her. Her name is Elle Reeve. And I just wanted to start by showing you her Wikipedia. So let's read this really quick, because there's an interesting point that I highlighted here. Reeve attended, blah, blah, blah. We don't care about the journalism stuff. Before joining Vice News, Reeve was a senior editor at The New Republic and politics editor at The Wire. She has also written articles for The Atlantic and The Daily Beast. So right there, Daily Beast is run by the Clintons. The Atlantic the editor is Jeffrey Goldberg, the fucking neocon, pro-Israel slime bag of the century. So this is her career path. But this next paragraph is the part that really fucking shocked me. Listen to this. This to me sums up the character of who this woman is. Reeve covered the August 2017 Unite the Right rally in Charlottesville, Virginia for Vice News Tonight, during which she interviewed neo-Nazi Christopher Cantwell, alt-right leader Richard B. Spencer, and other white supremacist demonstrators, capturing soon-to-be viral footage of attendees carrying tiki torches while chanting "Jews will not replace us." Her report, entitled Charlottesville Race and Terror, earned both her and Vice News Tonight a Peabody Award, 4 Emmy Awards, and a George Polk Award. Now, as we've seen with the Pulitzer Prize, or what is it, the Nobel Peace Prize, these awards are gigantic shams given to people who suck the dick of the establishment the hardest. So we know that. Now, this is the part that really, really struck me. In 2018, Fast Company included Reeve on their 2018 list of most creative people. Wait, hold on a second. I think I fucked this up. I forgot to read the highlighted part. While working for the New Republic, Reeve was assigned to fact check allegations by her then husband, Scott Thomas Beauchamp, of widespread American war crimes against Iraq civilians. The allegations were later retracted after facing criticism by conservative bloggers. And then if you notice down here, spouse, she's divorced from that guy. I wonder why. The guy went to Iraq. This guy was a veteran who served in Iraq, who saw war crimes, and his own wife, debunked them for the press and made him look like a liar on the national stage. That's the person that this lady is, as if there weren't actual war crimes in Iraq. Come on, give me a fucking break. Anyway, this is my top story today because I fucking unapologetically love Candace Owens, and you're going to see why. This is so good. It's just so good the way she handles this woman. Because it's clear when you watch these people what they're doing. They're trying to tie you to this racist thing and smear you. It's a subtle way of smearing, and it's what the fucking Zionist controlled media does. And I couldn't help but think as I was watching this of what they did to Ron Paul. Let's go back real quick for dream sequence here to back when in 2012 when Ron Paul was president. So you have me, Mr. Road Grimes, who had voted for Obama and was a little bit upset with the tenor of things because Obama was just continuing Dick Cheney's policies as a black man, and everyone was like, "Yay, we elected a black guy, even though he's doing all the same shit as the neocons, woo!" But at that time, I was looking for something else, so I got into Ron Paul. It was a very online movement. If you were around then, Ron Paul was the pre-Bernie Sanders small donation fundraiser. But why was he pushed out of the race? Allegations of racism. And I remember it so clearly because I used to work in the tech industry, and at the time I had a friend who was our company lawyer. And I'm not going to say his name because but he worked for the Clintons. And I remember when he saw me posting about Ron Paul, on Facebook, he's like, "That guy's a white supremacist racist," So this whole you're a racist if you are America first thing goes way, way back. The Zionists have been doing this for years, this smear, for years and years. The difference is now they can't control the flow of information like they used to. And so this is an attempt to do that with Candace Owens, and it fails hilariously. And I fucking love every moment of this. So let's watch it together. And well, first, hold on.
Okay, but all this
set this up first because I forgot that I included this clip as well. Here's a clip of her talking to Tim Dillon, and I just want to preface the Candace clip with this, just to show you this woman's
people
track
had to
record.
kind of left-wing shows like Amy Schumer and Michelle Wolf, those, Samantha Bee, those have all been canceled. All those shows are canceled.
Well, but there'll be new ones. There'll be new ones. I mean, do you not have the faith? Do you think there's going to be no left-wing comedy?
I don't see like a little ecosystem or like a galaxy. I mean, you might dispute this, but like.
So what they were trying to do at this time, and I think they're probably still trying to do this, is call the Rogan people and the podcasting people, like Andrew Schultz, who just helped get Mamdani elected. They're calling the new right, or like this Nazi ecosystem, because they're saying things that wouldn't be allowed to be said in the mainstream press. So here she is, kind of trying to lump Tim Dillon into that world.
In the sort of right of center.
There's a galaxy
world,
there's
right?
An establishment.
There's Rogan, and there's all this stuff around.
Again, is Trevor Noah not popular? He does arenas.
No. Is he
does
popular?
He's an arena comedian. He's one of the most popular comedians in the country. Hassan Minhaj, Ronnie Chang. These guys are all left-wing, and they're all really funny, really popular comics who I'm friends with and like.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, I don't think this thing's happening. Whatever everyone thinks happening, I don't think it's happening.
I think what's happening is the idea of what left and right has completely dissolved, because we know now that it's basically a mechanism to keep us fighting with each other instead of making the country a better place.
This idea that like left-wing where are they? Where are they? Where are they to be found? Where's Amy Schumer? I don't know. She's in her $15 million townhouse in Brooklyn. I think she'll be okay. I think these people will
But her show was canceled.
She just had a show on Hulu called Life in Bath. She just had a movie come out on Netflix.
So Tim completely dismantles her claim that left-wing comedy's dead. Like no one listens to left-wing comedians anymore. But now we get into the good stuff. This is like spike this shit into my veins. I love this clip so much. Oh God damn it. I'm pulling the wrong clips now. What the hell's going on here? Here it is.
To me. So there's this young woman, she's the same age as me. Elle Reeve is her name. And I'm going to also be clear. I got very testy in this interview because it was a couple of days after Charlie was killed.
Okay, Candace, sweetie, you have every right to be testy in this interview. And I'm sorry I called you sweetie. Candace could kick my ass. She's a bad motherfucker. But watch.
The first interview I was giving, just worked out that it was CNN. It wasn't about Charlie Kirk, but we had set this up before. And I decided to keep the appointment. I hadn't been sleeping. I hadn't been eating. And this woman, I guess, decided that she just wanted to poke a bear. Anyways, she's the one passing around this clip because she thinks it totally embarrasses me and shows that I'm a white nationalist. Take a listen.
You can criticize Netanyahu without being anti-Israel, and you can criticize Israel without being anti-Semitic. But some of the themes, talking points, concepts you've used in your criticism of Israel, I'm very familiar with from covering white nationalists for 10 years. It's very unsettling for me to hear things like you saying our government is occupied by Zionists, Trump is occupied by Zionists, we're an occupied nation.
Listen to her tripping over her words. Like, to me, that right there, that the way she kind of stutters is proof that she knows she's full of fucking shit. And she's just trying to, lump Candace in with white supremacists.
Because, there's literally a term that's like an 80s, 90s term from white nationalism, ZOG, Zionist occupied government. It's their idea that Jews control the world. And I'm wondering, are you intentionally referencing those kind of themes?
Wait, just to slow this down. Are you accusing me of white nationalist rhetoric? Because I do have to have a little bit of a giggle about that first.
Well, to me, I'm also they'd be no fan of yours.
It's silly. But this is one of the things where I feel like it's such a lesson for CNN. This is why nobody watches it anymore. I mean, it's like you're sitting across from a black person. You're like, I've learned about white nationalism, and you're using white nationalism.
I know them. I've been to the rallies. I've read all their texts.
I get it. I know. I'm so glad you're educated.
I love that so much. Just right out the gate, she just dismisses it as pure idiocy. I'm a black person, and you're accusing me of white supremacy. This is the dumbest shit I've ever heard in my life. It is anyone who buys any of this is a fucking retard. I'm sorry, retards, because that's actually detrimental to you. You're smarter than these people.
But this is when it's like, put it in a book and anybody will say it. It's just at a certain point you have to use your eyes and go, is Candace Owens promoting white nationalist rhetoric? Okay, Immediately no. So what else could it be? Could it be that actually Zionism is what it actually represents?
What does that mean? Like,
It's,
we're literally
Zionism is a political
occupied?
philosophy. Okay?
Zionist occupied government.
If you look into the history, yes, I believe.
What does that mean? Now she plays dumb, which is what a lot of these people like to do. What does that mean, Zionist? I don't even know what that means. Why do we, no matter who we vote for, we always do whatever Israel wants? I don't know why. That's weird.
We are a Zionist occupied government, and we're not the only one. Okay, yes, and I take it to the bank. If you need to walk out of here and say Candace Owens is a white nationalist for you to be able to digest it, then that's fine. You know, you have to deal with that in your own time. But
Like,
what I will say is,
maybe this
I
stuff is
stand
ambient,
by.
and that's where you
I
picked
stand
it
by
up.
every statement that I made, and I want to double down on it. Okay, America is occupied by Zionists.
I'd like to triple down on that if there's anybody going. I'd like to triple down on that. These tactics are super boring and tired, and this is why it hinges upon suppressing speech, right? Constantly having to refer to somebody as evil or a white supremacist or anti-Semitic because you've lost the argument on the like there is no merit to your argument anymore. So it's all a constant struggle session of semantics. And then she moves on to they. Do you remember growing up when we were just allowed to use
This gets even better.
the word they in sentences? And nobody said, what do you mean by that? Several times. She just, what do you mean by they? As if she didn't understand how to construct a basic sentence and to refer back to the noun. She had no idea which plural noun I was referring to. Anyways, I was not really in the mood. And here is our conversation about they.
They is a word, so like I don't need to always like say they. Like it's just a weird. It's like this is one of these psychology tactics where you're like, who is they? Who is they? And it's like,
Because it sounds like you're saying Jews.
does the word they mean Jews?
When you're talking about Jews, yes.
But if I'm not talking about Jews, then they doesn't mean Jews. When I say they want us to believe this or they want us to believe that, and you hear Jews, that's your own derangement, right? If I want to say something about Jews, I'll say it. If I want to say something about Israel, I will say it. If I want to, just like when I want to say something about black people, I'll say it. When I was saying during BLM, they want us to believe, nobody said, do you mean Jews? And so again, it's one of these trash tactics to make people fearful.
So there you go. She was critical of the BLM movement, and when she refers to the BLM movement as they, no one's like, oh, that's anti-black.
To speak. If I want to say Jews, I will say Jews. I don't fear saying Jews. When I say Zionists run the media, I mean Zionists run the media. People that support the political ideology of Israel run the media. Any other things that I can help clarify?
But are you familiar with this like very long-standing trope?
Couldn't
that
give a
Jews
shit about a trope.
I really try not to curse, but I just felt like we needed to kill it real quick. You know what I mean? Just get her to move on from it because I really don't care. I'm so tired of these words. I'm tired. I'm exhausted. Are you exhausted? We're tired. Collectively, we're tired. I had to shut it down because I suddenly realized I was homeschooling my toddlers. And I told her as the interview goes on, I was like, look, I have toddlers at home. I can't teach you, basic sentence. I'm teaching my toddlers how to read. And here I am. I'm teaching her how to understand they in a sentence. That's a place. What are we doing? How old is this person? And she says she's the same age as me. And I'm going, you missed first grade? You don't know what they means? And now you're just going to, it's a trope. This is the way to respond, okay? Just shut it down immediately. Embrace whatever you're going to be called. In this circumstance, if I got to be called a white supremacist to say my opinion about this administration and how it's been occupied by Zionists and the cruelties that the Palestinian children are suffering at the hands of Bibi Netanyahu, then so be it. I don't encourage you guys to cuss. It's a rare moment. Like I said, it was a couple days after Charlie Kirk died, and I just was not in the mood.
You are fine to cuss, Candace. That woman was very stupid. And listen, I'm going to say this too. I don't think that woman is stupid. But Candace did the right thing and dismisses her, which is what should be done to these people, because it shows how weak these people are, that they have to make they can't debate you on the merits of the argument. They have to call you a racist or associate you with racists or call you an anti-Semite, same thing as a racist, basically, and it's just pathetic. And this blubbering, stuttering woman, who's probably not a dumb person, makes herself look like one because she has to color inside these lines and pretend that Candace Owens, a black woman, is a white supremacist. And it's hilariously stupid. And it looks like I got a CNN viewer that wandered into my comments today. Candace Owens is a CIA agent and a white supremacist. Hey, buddy, why don't you run along and get your booster shot?
Ain't that America for you and me? Ain't that America?
Go get your 10th booster, bitch. Anyway, moving on. Another fantastic. We're gonna stick with Candace here because she's been on a tear lately. She recently did a interview with Dave Smith, and they kind of go into the weeds about a lot of the, stuff that's going on in the political realm, including, the whole woke right thing. And what they really get into here, which I love, is what's going on with the Trump administration right now. Now, a lot of these people, Dave Smith and Candace Owens, were pro-Trump to an extent. Now, Dave Smith has never been like 100% pro-Trump, but he did vote for him in the last election cycle. So I want to start with this is Candace kind of just explaining how she got to where she is, and she's basically an enemy of the mainstream Republican Party now. And it's funny to watch what's going on in politics because there's a splintering in both parties. And the splintering is between the old hat, the establishment oligarchs who take money from a certain lobby, which I won't get into right now, and the people who don't. And you see it on the right, you have people like Candace Owens in the talk sphere and Dave Smith, and in Congress, you have people like Thomas Massie and Marjorie Taylor Greene. On the left, I don't know if you have it as much in the top, but you have people like Jimmy Dore, Max Blumenthal. And then in Congress, you have pretty much no one that is fully left. So it's almost like, I think that's one of the reasons these Republicans are getting so much kind of love from the other side right now, because they're bucking their party in favor of what America actually wants. But I digress here. Let me kick you off here with Candace explaining her trajectory to Dave Smith in this beautiful clip here.
After my entire life, I just wanted to learn about the topic. I actually didn't have a perspective, but I knew that I didn't know everything. And they were just so vicious with, no, you have to come out and you have to say these things. And I was like, look, I don't know anything about this. Let me speak to speak to other people. Like, I watched Bassem go viral, the clip go viral where he was holding up the chart. And I was going, whoa, that is kind of crazy. Are this many Gazans dying? Then I went back and I watched some old content of you on Joe Rogan speaking about the topic. Then I hosted you at the Daily Wire. And that was a big wake up call. And I really was coming from a place, it's still one of my favorite episodes. I think they pulled all the content down, but just learning about Middle Eastern politics, I'm not presenting myself as an expert. And I think that is what also the market is responding to, is at least I want to learn. At least I am showing that I will correct where I was wrong. I was working for PragerU, Daily Wire. I was working with Zionists. I obviously had no hatred in my heart towards the Zionist cause. And then it was just asking the question. Like, I was messaging with Max Blumenthal because, strange allies, right? And he has done some really incredible work. And I went back and I found these messages from a time where I simply retweeted Max Blumenthal on something that he said about Kyrie Irving that I agreed on. So it wasn't even about Israel. And I got messages, like, all I can tell you is like Agent Smith. I sent it to him. It's crazy. Like Marissa Strait, Dave Rubin. And I actually apologized to them because I was like, wow, this guy must literally be Hitler. Like, I didn't know. I just saw it trending and I retweet him.
So that's the MO. That's how they control the flow of information. Oh, you can't listen to that guy. He's a racist. Max Blumenthal, a Jewish man, is an anti-Semite.
That's what kind of goes on behind the scenes. Like, they are actually presenting themselves as free speech thinkers, and then they put pressure on people and tell them, hey, even listening or retweeting Max Blumenthal, you may not know it. And they told me this, he's an anti-Semite. Like, he's a committed anti-Semite. Max Blumenthal. It's a different time now. And that sort of, we're going to tell you what to think and you're going to like it, is not like, people aren't buying it anymore.
Let's keep going here. In this next clip, they talk a little bit about Kanye.
True. That is how gentle it was. I had seen it was a dead Palestinian child, and she looked like my daughter. And I was going, well, this is crazy. Like, this is not just a black and white issue. I need to actually learn about this issue. And as soon as you express a feeling, I describe it very much. It is a psychological operation that is meant to break you. And there's no question in my mind that they have done experiments to see. I mean, this is really going back to what Kanye was saying, and he's not the greatest orator of our time, but this is what he was describing was happening to him in Hollywood, where he was this is what he was trying to break free from. And of course, he notoriously says, I'm about to go DEFCON 3 on some Jews. And they made it seem like he had tanks and he was going to come in and he was going to start just like lighting up Jews in Los Angeles. But in reality, everyone ignored the fact that Harley Pasternak was, and this was one of the people he was referring to. He was also referring to at that time Scooter Braun. Justin Bieber has now kind of said things about Scooter Braun. Who knows what's true and what's not? I mean, I've had friendly conversations with Scooter, so I don't have a horse in the race. But the point is he was trying to say that there is this psychological operation that sweeps in if you do not actually peddle certain talking points or certain perspectives, particularly in Hollywood. I didn't understand what he was saying at that time. Then I went through it politically and I was going, what is actually happening? I mean, the peer pressure, you're going to do this or you're going to lose everything. We saw that even in Charlie Kirk's text messages.
ADL is played out. Nobody knows who the ADL are. Stop giving them attention. Nobody cares about the ADL.
Than Charlie Kirk, but it wasn't enough because they were so angry, Dave, particularly Josh Hammer was angry, Dave, that you annihilated him in a debate on stage. And how did you annihilate him? I don't know, just by being a human being. I don't know, and Tucker Carlson gets out there and Charlie was going through it. Okay.
So I want to just pause here for a second and mention that Kanye, if you think about it, think of two of the most popular conservative commentators are right now in the, sphere, the podcast sphere, whatever. It's Candace Owens, #1 podcast in the world, and Nick Fuentes, both of whom Kanye kind of introduced to the world. Isn't that odd? Kanye, I feel like, I love Kanye unapologetically. And I feel like he's so far ahead of everyone else that it's hard for him to come back to reality. And people are like he's 3 years ahead of everybody, as is evident by what's going on right now in the political debate. He was, and I did an entire piece, which you should go back and watch, on Kanye and why he did the things he did to separate himself from the people who were controlling his business. He got Adidas to drop him. He had a contract with Adidas, and all he had to do was say some shit that they construed as anti-Semitism, and they dropped him from his contract, which I think was the desired result. So I think Kanye is a lot smarter than people want to give him credit for. And I also think, again, he was way ahead of the curve. But let's keep going here with Candace and Dave. In this next clip, they get into a little bit more of the divide right now and what is being called the woke right. They don't actually use that term, but we're going to talk about it. Listen.
Back to say 2017 or 2018 or something like that, the energy that Ben Shapiro or Jordan Peterson were able to kind of take hold of was that they were the ones saying, you guys are afraid to debate. You guys need to rely on censorship. You have to rely on demonizing your opponent rather than just addressing their ideas. Mm-hmm. And now they just can never say that again, because we saw what happened as soon as their ideas got questioned, and then they all turned into the exact same thing. And that's just, the hypocrisy like that is very hard these days in this media environment, in this spiritual environment, whatever exactly it is. It's just very hard for people to keep their own lies from being exposed.
Right.
So I want to talk a bunch about.
So what I wanted to say here, I think, is the woke right, right? You see this on Twitter a lot. And what the woke right is what Dave Smith just described. The Ben Shapiros, the Jordan Petersons, who basically made their name by calling out, people trying to silence speech. Like, what is a woman? Oh, if you ask that question, you're a bigot. Well, I need a safe space. That kind of, they came out against that. And now that they're kind of have gained political power, they're doing the exact same thing. And that's what the woke right is. And people like Ben Shapiro and James Lindsay and Konstantin Kassin, they know what it means, but they pretend it's not them. It's like the Pee Wee Herman, I know you are, but what am I type thing. So the next little piece of this, they talk about the never Trumpers. And this is such a fantastic fucking point. It should be shouted from the rooftops. But look, Candace made it, so let me give her the credit here. Listen to this.
Have the Republican Party, we have a Democrat Party, and then we have the Knesset Party, and they've infiltrated both of the parties actually. And what's happening right now is left and right people are saying no to that. The reasons might be different, but it's a populist movement one way or the other.
Right.
And it's hilarious to me that they think after me watching Charlie Kirk get assassinated, them spitting in our face and telling us that it's raining about everything that happened here, the viciousness that they themselves directed toward me in the aftermath. I mean, people are like, they tried to say that I didn't even know Charlie. I mean, they were so intent on making sure that not one drop of Candace being anti-Israel was a part of his legacy, but they just lied. They lied in a way that for the grief that I was going through, I'm not a crier. I mean, it was a lot. I couldn't eat, I couldn't sleep. It was a lot for me to go through. And I look back and I'm like, wow, the nastiness of them doing this. And then a couple of weeks later being like, and now we demand you tell your audience to go vote for who we want them to vote for.
Yeah.
F you. F you. I am not doing anything. Okay. Here's the way it works. And here's how common sense is. Okay. You tell me I can do this job. I can build your house. I can do this. I hire you. Okay. I get behind it. I say, okay, I hire you. Go do that job. You then don't do it. You look at me and you say, Epstein who? Okay. You're at the top of the FBI and you say, oh, these are the real messages. You're blocking people as Kash Patel is from looking into Tulsi's team and Joe Kent. You saw this playing.
So I want to take this moment to show you my newest video drop for Kash Patel. Check it out.
At 22:16 hours, we got a call that a man was acting erratically in the store. He's acting like a maniac. When we arrived on the scene, the store had been emptied of its customers because of the behavior of this gentleman. It took us a while to control the situation, and there was some frustration involved. We've had 3 incidences this week. I wouldn't go as far as to say epidemic. They're annoying.
Crash Bandicoot, the director of the FBI. So in this next clip, they're going to talk a little bit about Mamdani. And this is where it gets really good. And like I was saying, the left-right divide is coming apart. That dynamic, that paradigm cannot be used to make us fight each other anymore because we're starting to see we're starting to see the shell game they're playing. But listen.
Reason. People just be smart enough to see this for 1 second, right? Because it's funny when they come at me. Because look, I'm not I voted for Trump this last time. I sat out the first 2. I've always been but the thing is, because I'm to the MAGA of him. I'm to the non-intervention of him. When Donald Trump came out and said, we're not going to fight these wars. Iraq, you lied us into Iraq, blah, 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 but we'll still bomb them and we'll take the oil and we'll do this. I went, nope, too much. That's still too much intervention for me. Now, they rejected him because he was saying we shouldn't be so interventionist. I was over here you should be even more non-interventionist than that. I want you to be Ron Paul. And so for them to sit here and say, it's yeah, dude, you guys all fought him over him signaling more in our direction of foreign policy, which is that we don't want to fight all these stupid wars. And it's yeah, they're trying to use this energy. It's so what do you guys want to do? You want to run on Mark Levin's platform? You want to run on Jeb Bush's platform? That's 1% in the polls, man. It's so they have to almost rely on running like us, but then, trying to, I don't know, demonize all of us or something.
That's it.
So this is the dynamic I fear is happening with Mamdani, because it's what happened with Obama, right? Obama ran on change we can believe in. I'm going to do all this great stuff. And then he got in and he was Dick Cheney. He was George Bush with a smiling multicultural face. And now they're trying to do this on the right. And God bless the right, they have a lot more balls than the left did, than the Bernie Sanders move. I'm sorry, Bernie, but you're a pussy. Bernie could have fought the Democrats and actually got something for his movement. Instead, he sold us all out and became a fucking war pig scumbag. Oh, the oligarchy. We got to fight the oligarchy, except the ones that give me money.
infiltration. They have to like pretend, and then infiltrate, and then try to force like neocon, pro-military, pro-intervention, nonstop bombing of some countries so we can steal their resources and pretend that there was some moral democratic reason that we were there. And people are awake to it. So I do wonder, it seems like they're playing checkers. It's nobody's believing that you're original MAGA. I mean, it's such a weird thing. It's like, they're like, the problem are these people who actually got Trump elected when we were attacking him. Like, the problem are these people. They're so extreme. We're right back. I'm like, we're hamsters on a wheel, right? We are just right back to the beginning here, and we're the basket of deplorables. Okay, let's go. Like, and now it's like Trump, I guess, like I said, has joined Never Trump, or is being controlled by the Never.
So, okay, I want to stop there because that is such a great point. The people who hated Trump the most are now the ones running his administration. And the problem that Trump is going to have with this is, remember, he won the election by appealing to those people. They're the majority now. The MAGA people are the majority, like it or not. So this neocon shell game is not going to work. And we saw that with this election that happened last Tuesday. But let me let her finish.
Trump movement. It doesn't matter. Our eyes are clear on this. We know what we voted for. We know why we got behind Trump, and we know that we're not getting it. We're getting like Bitcoin stuff that he's like pushing, and which is like completely crazy. And like, by the way, also, you are taking advantage of people that believe in you the most. All of it is just so wrong, and it's so icky. We're aware of the deals that Jared is doing while you call us funded by Qatar. The deals that Jared is doing in the Middle East with Qatar and Israel, they think we're this dumb. And I'm going, wow, like, did you always think we were this dumb? Or actually, is it because you're occupied by the Never Trumpers, and the Never Trumpers have been explicit in the fact that they think that Trump people are dumb? But we're not this dumb.
You're an anti-Semite.
We're aware of what you're doing. We're aware of the infiltration, and we are not going to support that.
Yeah, and the sad thing is, as Tucker said when he was on my show a few days ago, he said, you know, if you really ran on an America First message, it's going to be enormously popular, and not just with the right wing. I mean, you could carry half the left wing on that message too. Maybe not all of them, but you could carry a whole lot of independents and liberals. And
Bernie Sanders would have won conservatives. I know plenty of conservatives who would have voted for Bernie Sanders, but would not vote for Hillary Clinton. I think some of them probably voted for Joe Biden, but
leftists, if you just said, hey, like, here's the platform, like a separation, you know, in the same way we had like a separation of church and state or anything like that, you go, a separation of Israel and DC, a separation of Tel Aviv and DC is like a great thing to run on, that you could get tens of millions of Americans to rally around. That's just it. Our goal here is just, the platform is, we're not going to fight stupid wars. We're not going to have open borders. We're going to start spending within our means. Like how much tax revenue do we bring in every year? That's what we can spend. Okay. We can't borrow and print the money. And I will say, and this will be the last thing I say, and then I'll give you the final word. I do see, you know, like as Mamdani wins, and, you know, Ben Shapiro and people like that are going, when did you guys spend any time attacking Mamdani? You know, and it's like, hey, look, I would love in a way to argue with a communist who wants to be mayor of New York City. You know, it's like, the problem is that you guys made the whole argument you've never visited Israel, and then you go, oh, you picked the argument that he was right on, that he was strongest on, was rejecting all of this shit. Oh, it's not, you won't even pledge to be a genocidal demon like us. Like, yeah, okay, well, I actually kind of like that about him. But the thing about it is,
there you go. So even with Mamdani, it's pretty obvious that the lobby is at work. I mean, they spent so much money trying to smear him as like a terrorist and a communist and all this stuff. And we're going to see what happens, because he's the mayor. He can't just rule by fiat. He has to deal with other, you know, powers that be. But the things he's saying are why he won. And they played this clip. I'm sure you've seen it. I'm not going to play it, but there's a clip of him on stage in New York. We're going to talk about it right now. Actually, I'll just let them say, you've seen it, where everyone says they're going to Israel, and he says he's going to stay in New York and meet people in the boroughs, Jewish people. He gives a good answer. So here is Candace and Dave talking about the
for a reason. Like, people just be like smart enough to see this for 1 second, right? Because it's funny when they come at me, because look, I'm not like I voted for Trump this last time. I sat out.
I just played this one. Okay, so what I'm going to show you now is a clip of Tucker and Marge. We're going to take a little sidebar here. This is Tucker and MTG talking about Mamdani, and Tucker was smeared for this as if he was like trying to help Mamdani
Under
win.
any other circumstance, like how did Al Sharpton get to be leader of Black America or whatever? I mean, it's like just it's a thing. Desperate people tend to go to crappy leaders, I think, and I just can't get.
That's how Trump won, by the way.
Get over what happened in our biggest city this week, the very same week that everybody in DC is focused thousands of miles away on the greatest threat we face, Iran's nuclear program. I don't want Iran to have the bomb. I'm not pro Iran,
No,
obviously.
we're not pro Iran.
Yeah.
Like, why do we have to say it?
No,
But
right.
we do.
It's
Yeah,
dumb,
there's the
but at
disclaimer.
the same
You're an
time,
anti-Semite.
To Iran, our largest city had a Democratic primary, effectively the mayor's race, and like 32-year-old socialist who wants government-run grocery stores gets elected. He's going to likely run our biggest city.
Yeah. And
in the country.
New York.
And it's like, why did that?
Okay, honest question here. Do the people who are so against socialism realize that they are living socialism every day? Police departments are socialist. We collectively pay for that utility. Fire departments are socialist. The roads you drive on are socialist. Public schools you take your children to are socialist. And, there's a debate to be had about whether or not public school is a good idea, whatever. The point is, you live socialism every day. So just like this whole oh, you're a racist, this socialism scare tactic is not going to work. I got into it with one of my relatives the other day about healthcare. Oh, we can't just give away healthcare. Well, look at every other fucking country in the world that's socialist. They somehow do it, but we can't because we have a system. We have some middlemen making money off the broken system. Anyway.
Happened? Is it because people are so desperate for government-run grocery stores or love socialism or love foreign-born midwits running their cities? Probably not. That guy was the only person in the New York City mayor's debate to say he wanted to focus on New York City. All the candidates were asked, if you could visit a foreign country, what would it be? And they all, of course, all had an answer. I think most said Israel. Great. And he said, I wouldn't go anywhere. I'd stay in New York. And if I want to meet Jewish constituents, I go to their synagogues, their homes or whatever, but I'd be here in New York because that's what I'm doing. I'm running New York. That's my job.
Well, he gave the right answer.
He gave the right answer.
He gave the right answer.
At least, and he's talking. I totally oppose his program.
Absolutely.
To be clear. I don't think it works, but he's talking about economics.
Yep.
And everyone else is talking about foreign policy.
There you go. So here is the kind of closer of this segment.
That we saw that recently, and the reality is they need America because they don't have enough bodies. They have enough corruption. They have enough evil. They don't have enough bodies, and this is why they're trying to commit you to their cause ideologically, because you are the slaves that are supposed to go over and die. When they drop bombs and say that they're spreading.
So leading up to this, they were talking about the empire, and Dave was talking about fiscal responsibility and how that's supposedly a conservative thing, but somehow it's okay for us to dump all this money into the empire, and that more than anything is why this whole uprising on the left and right, this populist uprising, is a problem.
Democracy, but they're actually in Afghanistan having people guard the poppy seeds so that they can cause the opioid crisis, right? Like you're fighting for the Sackler family. You're not fighting because you're up against the Taliban. All of that's nonsense. And people are waking up to that. Another way.
We paid the Taliban. We hired, just like Ukraine, we hired the Taliban to fight Russia. We funded them. The U.S. has no moral high ground whatsoever to call any country bad at this point.
And this is what I say all the time on my podcast: pull your kids out of their schools. Okay, homeschool. They get so much power by being able to infiltrate their minds when they're young. That's why they're obsessed with the youth generation. And guess what? That's already winning. There's a reason why they now want to pass homeschool laws. They're trying to demonize homeschoolers. Is because COVID woke parents up to whoa, why do I have not even control over my kid's body? Forget the mind. I don't even have control over my child's body. And there's no upside. I mean, this is why are you sending your kids to university? For what reason? To plug them into that same monetary system where they start their lives like I did, $150,000 into debt because they thought that they had to go to college. This is all the matrix. Attack it where you can in your own household, and they don't even know what to do. They're scrambling. You hear it now. They've never been more worish in their demands for cancellation, and it's because an animal backed into a corner fights the hardest. Keep talking about Israel. Keep talking about Tel Aviv. Keep talking about Bibi Netanyahu. Keep talking about homeschooling. Keep talking about the military-industrial complex, and we will win. They are at the beginning of the end of their domination over American minds.
And that, my friends, is why Candace Owens has the #1 show, #1 podcast in the world, as Jimmy would say. Well, that made me very happy because, again, I really like Candace, but I also, once again, want to say this. You can argue with me if you'd like, but this dynamic would not be occurring among the top left podcasters had Kamala won. You would not see Pod Save America going, well, guys, even though Kamala won, we need to like step up and oppose the genocide, you know, like we gotta be good moral people. No, they didn't do that when Biden was president. They all defended it. And so this is a very positive development in the world of American politics. The fact that the populist left and right are now saying the same things and kind of seeing eye to eye, and you can see the fractures in both party. The Mamdanis and the Marjorie Taylor Greens are kind of the same result of this, you know, whole system and this problem that we have. So I'd like to move on to another populist right winger, Marjorie Taylor Greene now. And she was recently on The View, which, you know, go watch. I'm not going to try to take clips from it because I don't want to get copyright strikes for playing ABC's content or whatever. That's how they shut your streams down. But what I do want to do is talk about the dynamic between Marjorie Taylor Greene and the hero of the left, AOC. So if you remember, if you're like me, if you're a part of the Bernie movement, we elected AOC and, you know, Cori Bush and, you know, a lot of these, at the time they were called Justice to Ilhan Omar, Justice Democrats, to shake up the party. What happened? They got in, they got absorbed into the party, and now they sound like stock and trade Democrats. Now, to be fair to, you know, Rashida Tlaib and some of the more outspoken, Al Green, maybe some of the Democrats who actually have a spine, there are a few in there that, you know, live their values in Congress. AOC is not one of them. She is, and it's disgusting. And I remember when Jimmy first started calling her out, you're a sexist, the whole thing. And then as time went on, it was like, oh shit, Jimmy was right. He was right. And so I want to start this bit here, a little bit for you, with the reality that MTG has been kind of out-lefting AOC for a long time. And let me just show you this start off. Let's kick it off with this guy right here. So this is AOC's reaction to Marjorie Taylor Greene on The View.
And mean girl in Congress, AOC, decided to spill the tea. She doesn't directly address this appearance, but it seems like she was turning green with envy about it.
And my boys Russ and Keaton on Due Dissidence, they actually kind of cut the clip up, and so I can play some of it. So thanks, guys.
So she had to do this very mean girl video about why Marjorie Taylor Greene is singing a different song now.
Tea for you. MTG, people are like, oh my God, she's saying all of these things. Like, what's gotten into her lately? Oh, like she's bucking against Trump. She's bucking against the administration. Marjorie Taylor Greene wanted to run for Senate in Georgia. She wanted to run for Senate earlier this year in the state of Georgia. She wanted to be the Republican nominee for Senate. So she was gearing up for that statewide race, and Trump told her no.
So just to be clear here, AOC is making the case that the reason Marjorie Taylor Greene is going against Trump is because he told her she can't run for Congress in Georgia, as if that's going to make a difference. Like, who cares what he says? She can file the paperwork and do it whether he says it or not. Whether or not she gets his support is another thing. Politically, it might be good to not have his support in the next cycle, but
Trump said no. And the White House and Trump land shut down Marjorie Taylor Greene's personal ambitions to run for Senate. And she has been on a revenge tour ever since.
So, you know what happened? Marjorie, she wanted to run for Senate, and Trump was like, no.
no, you can't. So now she's like, okay, well, then I'm going on The View, and I'm gonna talk about the big beautiful bill, and I'm gonna talk about how bad you're being to farmers. Okay. What a
You go back
fucking
to your
asshole.
home on Whore Island.
So I want to remind you, this actually kind of jogged my memory about an incident that happened last year that is so funny. I had to go dig it up again. I did a whole piece on this last year when it happened, but let's take a trip down memory lane here and remember this incident.
Do you know what we're here for? You know we're here about AG.
I don't think you know what you're here for.
Well, you the one talking about. I guess
I think your fake
eyelashes
eyelashes are messing up.
No,
what you're
ain't
reading.
nothing.
Hold on.
Listen.
Order.
Mr. Chairman,
That's beneath
would
even
you
your
please engage a member of your committee?
Order.
I do have a point of order, and I would like to move to take down Ms. Green's words. That is absolutely unacceptable. How dare you attack the physical appearance of another person?
Are your
So the energy that AOC has for like someone attacking, making a joke about Jasmine Crockett's eyelashes is way more passion than I've seen her on, what's going on in the Middle East or, the Ukraine war or healthcare.
feelings hurt?
Her words down.
Aw.
Oh, girl, baby girl.
Oh, really?
Don't even play,
Baby.
AOC code switches into like a hood person. She's like, baby girl, don't even play. I will. She turns into Cardi B all of a sudden.
Girl,
I don't think we are going to move, and we're going to take your words down.
I second that motion.
You agree to strike your words?
Yeah. I'll
Okay. Ms. Green agrees to strike her words.
I believe she
Chair
needs to
recognizes
apologize. No.
Mr. Perry.
She needs to
Okay,
apologize.
hold on. Then after Mr. Perry's going to be recognized, then Ms. Green
I'm not
has 4 minutes and
apologizing.
21
Well,
seconds.
then
Okay,
you're
reserve
not
the right to
striking your
object.
words.
I am
You're
not
not
apologizing.
Let's go.
I'm just curious, just to better understand your ruling. If someone on this committee then starts talking about somebody's bleach blonde, bad built butch body, that would not be engaging in personalities, correct?
What now?
Chairman, I make a motion to strike those words.
I don't think that's a
Hold on.
part of it.
I'm going to go to one of my clips right here. Enjoy.
Marjorie, oh yeah, AOC, I'm going in. Fund the police, even though they won't come around. If your neighborhood's predominantly brown, and if you call them, they'll most likely show up and uncategorically shoot at minorities. Despite that shit, we gotta fund. Give corrupt mother lovers more badges and guns. Our police state is too big to fail, so let's fund the prison complex till we all live in jails. Tweeting at me cause I'm in Congress, dropping cash on the military complex, searching my timeline for racism. Cops know that I got mad funding to give them. It's AOC and you wanna date me, cause I'm fresh, yo, put you in the friend zone. Criticize me, I will scream violence, then send the cops to your house just to silence you and your family's right to speak. Then I'll give $1 billion to the Capitol Police. I'm in the house, yo, we got the purse strings to fund the police state and do all the worst things. But I'll never do anything out there like vote against war or for universal health care. Fund the police. Fund the police. Yeah, girl. Fund the police. Fund the police. Yeah, fund the police.
That Marjorie and AOC can come together on funding the police. But I got off track there a little bit. Marjorie is out lefting AOC, and Russ and Keaton have receipts. Let's see a little bit of this.
So this feud goes back quite a ways, but most recently, and this is what this is really about. AOC sucks so bad, Marjorie Taylor Greene keeps out-lefting her. She keeps out-lefting her. In fact, that whole appearance, she out-lefted AOC in what she was saying. AOC voted against an amendment, this was back in July, proposed by Marjorie Taylor Greene that would have cut $500 million in military aid to Israel. Remember this? Marjorie Taylor Greene, Thomas Massie, Rashida Tlaib, Ilhan Omar, Summer Lee, and Al Green were the only representatives in Congress to vote in favor, but not AOC.
So again, that's a list of people I would give respect to for actually, living their values and voting the way they should have.
Not AOC. And she smeared the people who voted for it as Nazis, which I guess would assume would include her colleagues Omar Tlaib and Summer Lee. Google is free. If you're saying I voted for military funding, you are lying. Receipts attached. Drag me from my positions all you want, but lying about them doesn't make you part of the left. If you believe neo-Nazis are welcome and operating in good faith, you can have them. And then she went on
love Russ's
to
AOC
defend her
impression.
vote by saying she was not actually voting for weapons for Israel, but for weapons for the Iron Dome, defensive only. What it does do is cut off defensive Iron Dome capabilities while allowing the actual bombs killing Palestinians to continue. I have long stated that I do not believe that adding to the death count of innocent victims to this war is constructive to its end, blah, blah, blah. Caitlin Johnston responded with one of her bangers. I didn't give the mass shooter guns and ammunition. I just bought him a bulletproof vest so nobody could stop his mass shooting.
Oh, you
Yeah,
disgust
that was
me.
pretty much
Okay.
it. She said, well, you know, I want them to have the defensive weapons to continue their genocide. So friend of show here, Jimmy Dore, a couple weeks ago, showed a clip where Marjorie Taylor Greene talked with Tim Dillon, very critical of her own party in a way that AOC would never be.
Crazy shit she said.
Here she is doing what Bernie Sanders and AOC will never do while their party is in power, criticize their party for not having a plan.
I love this part of my show because this is almost like a Russian nesting doll where I'm watching a podcast, watching a podcast, watching a podcast. So enjoy. I'm watching Due Dissidence. Due Dissidence watching Jimmy. Jimmy's watching Tim Dillon.
For people's health care. No plan. She says, where's the Republican plan to make health care affordable? Where's the Republican plan to make housing affordable, to stop BlackRock from buying up, and by the way, and Chinese billionaires too, from buying up property in the United States to make it unaffordable? And they sit empty, by the way. So the billionaires buy the housing and they sit empty, and all it does is drive up the price of housing in the United States, and there's no plan to.
I hear you. It's definitely a tiger by the tail.
Where's the plan? Where's the plan to make healthcare affordable? It's nowhere. In fact, they're doing the exact opposite. Right now, the government, Trump's administration, is cutting Medicaid and Medicare and subsidies to help people afford health insurance. They're cutting it all, and guess who that affects? It affects MAGA, and those people are going to feel it. And Marjorie Taylor Greene knows that.
Yep, she knows that, and she is one of the few speaking out about it. And Jimmy there is exactly right. Exactly right. When Biden was in, did you hear a peep out of these people about healthcare? Did you see Bernie holding Biden to account on healthcare? Did you see AOC holding him to account? This, though, is really, really such a juvenile high school mean girl thing to do.
Right. But again, the history, she said something about Jasmine Crockett's eyelashes. So there's a deep ongoing feud between those two people. But the question you got to ask yourself, is Marjorie Taylor Greene genuine? Is she just doing this for election hopes, or is she actually genuine? And so far as I can see, she is pretty genuine. She wouldn't be taking on the types of lobbies that she's taking on were she not. So this last clip from the View interview is a good one, and I think it kind of shows her true colors. Listen to this.
Eclipses asking her about QAnon.
Don't believe in the QAnon conspiracies anymore?
Oh, I went over that a long time ago. I mean,
you've changed.
Well, no, I haven't changed. I was a victim, just like you were, of media lies and stuff you read on social media. You all have attacked me many times on this show.
We have.
Because of things that you
Jewish space lasers.
read about me that weren't true.
Or clips we've seen.
Or clips you've seen.
Yeah, what was the line on Marjorie Taylor Greene when she started being critical of the empire? I think it was
You're an
this.
anti-Semite.
Jewish space took me out of context.
What was that about?
No, but
Wait, hold
not
on.
even true.
Let's
It's
take
been-
a second.
Yeah, it's
'cause
been
I'm
rebuffed.
getting the
All right. So basically, what she said is, well, yeah, man, I got tricked. You get tricked by corporate media, and really just disowned the whole thing, which I thought was a pretty honest, if pointed answer. Like, she certainly could have brought up Russiagate, for example.
Right.
It would have been very interesting to see how the View ladies reacted. They were so into the Kumbaya thing. Would they have been willing to concede that they got tricked about Russiagate?
No,
but that's
they would
not where
not.
she went with it.
She didn't want to fight with them probably on their show because they just opening a whole nother can of worms. So Marjorie Taylor Greene, I think, is genuine. I think she's legit. I don't think that she's just doing this for political points. I think this is what she genuinely believes. And there's a lot more of the Republicans who have come out against the establishment and with spines like Matt Gaetz and her and Thomas Massey than we saw on the left. So I don't care how we get to a more populist, state in the a more populist political dialogue in the United States. I don't care how we get there. I don't care if it's the right or the left that gets us there. I'll disagree with the right on stuff that they're wrong about, like killing SNAP benefits, for example. Doing anything that hurts the working class should not be their thing. That's how they won. They won saying they were going to help the working class. So it's just like what the Democrats do. Let's not kid ourselves. But that brings us to our next bit of breaking news, which is related to Russiagate. Russiagate indictments. I don't know if you saw this or not, but Friday news dump, this story went out. And this is a big deal because this was the thing that really turned me the hardest against the Democrats. If you remember, when they lost, rather than, have any self-reflection or go like, oh, maybe we shouldn't have stomped on the Bernie movement, they went, oh, Trump, Russia did it. They went right from they did exactly, they went right to this.
Russia
did it. No.
Russia
did it.
Russia
did it.
So let's read this let's fly through this real quick because it's an exclusive federal grand jury has subpoenaed former CIA Director John Brennan, former FBI officials Peter Strzok and Lisa Page, among others, as part of the Justice Department's investigation into the origins of the Trump-Russia probe, Fox News Digital has learned. Sources told Fox News Digital Brennan struck the FBI's former deputy assistant director of counterintelligence, and Page, a former FBI lawyer, were served with federal subpoenas on Friday. Law enforcement sources told Fox News Digital up to 30 subpoenas will be issued in the coming days relating to the investigation. The grand jury is out of the Southern District of Florida. Okay, that's going to help. U.S. attorney for this Southern District of Florida is Jason Redding Kifones, supervising the probe. Fox News Digital first reported this summer that Brennan was under criminal investigation. Strzok and Page first came under scrutiny in 2018 when the Justice Department Inspector Michael Horovitz uncovered a series of anti-Trump text messages between them. Both were assigned to work on the special counsel Robert Mueller's team in 2017. Page served on Mueller's team on a short detail, returning to the FBI's Office of General Counsel in July 2017. Strzok, though, was removed from the team and was reassigned to the FBI's Human Resources Division. Prior to serving in the special counsel's office, Strzok was a top agent in the Bureau's counterintelligence division. Strzok is the FBI agent who in 2016 opened the FBI's initial Russia investigation, which was nicknamed Crossfire Hurricane inside the Bureau. Now, we all know, it's clear in retrospect, hindsight is 2020, that these people all colluded because they were going to have jobs in a Hillary Clinton administration, and they were upset that that did not materialize. So they were going to do anything they could to get the guy out of there. Strzok was fired from the Bureau in August 2018 after months of scrutiny regarding the anti-Trump text messages exchanged between himself and Page. During congressional testimony in 2018, Strzok confirmed that he and Page were involved in an extramarital affair. So he's a real stand-up guy. As for the criminal investigation into Brennan, CIA Director John Ratcliffe referred to evidence of wrongdoing by Brennan to the FBI Director Kash Bandicoot for potential prosecution, DOJ sources told Fox News Digital. Sources at the time said that the referral was received and told Fox News Digital that a criminal investigation into Brennan was open and underway. DOJ sources declined to provide further details. It's unclear at this point if the investigation spans beyond his alleged false statements to Congress. The Brennan investigation came after Ratcliffe this summer declassified a lessons learned review of the creation of the 2017 Intelligence Community Assessment. The 2017 ICA alleged Russia sought to influence the 2016 presidential election to help then candidate Donald Trump, but the review found that the process of the CIA's creation was rushed with procedural anomalies, and that officials diverted from intelligence standards. Now, it's very clear now, too, that the Russia scam was designed to get everyone upset at Russia so that they would support a proxy war in Ukraine, which we're going to get into in a little while. It also determined that the decision by the agency heads to include the Steele dossier in the ICA ran counter to fundamental tradecraft principles and ultimately undermined the credibility of a key judgment. The dossier, an anti-Trump document filled with unverified and wholly inaccurate claims that was commissioned by Fusion GPS and paid for by Democratic presidential Hillary Clinton's campaign and the DNC, has been widely discredited. In fact, I've covered this. Hillary Clinton had to pay a fine for that when they found out about it. She had to pay an FEC fine, federal election. And of course, the news kind of buried that. But that's how real these allegations are. Anyway, last week's review marks the first time career CIA officials have acknowledged the politicization of the process by which the ICA was written, particularly by Obama-era political appointees. They panicked after he won and did everything they could on their way out to hamstring him. Records declassified as part of the review further reveal that Brennan did, in fact, push for the dossier to be included in the 2017 ICA. Brennan testified to the House Judiciary Committee in May 2023, however, that he did not believe the dossier should be included in that intelligence product. Ratcliffe was not surprised by the review's findings. A source familiar told Fox News Digital, given the director's long history of criticizing Brennan's politicization of intelligence, but Ratcliffe was compelled to refer aspects of Brennan's involvement to the FBI for review. Possible criminality, the source said. So that is where we are at on the Russiagate. I don't want to call it a hoax, but the Russiagate incident, maybe scam, hoax, scam, same thing. But this is one of the byproducts of Trump getting elected that I'm all for, because imagine if the roles were reversed and they did something like this to Obama or Hillary or Bernie Sanders or, Al Gore or something like that. We know what they did to Al Gore, but this is good news, and it'll be interesting to see how this plays out. So we're nearing the final leg here, and in this bit we're going to talk about the peace president. Donald Trump consistently calls himself the peace president. And so far, he has not been a peace president whatsoever, which is why people like Candace Owens and Dave Smith are rebelling against the Trump administration and Marjorie Taylor Greene. This is not what we signed up for. And, there's a lot of people on the left that are like dunking on these people like, oh, you fooled again, fooled again. Yeah, no one thought for a second that Trump was going to be the miracle. Well, some people did. I shouldn't say that. But the reality is, when you're in a situation like we had in the last election cycle, you kind of have to choose between the lesser of two evils, as is commonly stated. And in this particular case, I think Trump was the lesser of two evils. And the reason for that we're seeing play out right now. First of all, Tulsi Gabbard is in his administration. And say whatever you want about that, but she's one of the few people pushing back from inside against the wars. Marjorie Taylor Greene is coming out and fighting this. And, I think I'm going to show you this in a little bit. The news that people are pissed off is getting back to Trump. I saw him say recently, the reason that they lost those elections last week are because people are bad, because they're not doing what they're supposed to. So it hasn't even been a year yet. Again, I say this a lot. I'm not defending Trump, but I'm saying it takes a lot of time to unravel this stuff. And as we're going to discuss in a little bit, there's a lot of other players in the game. He's a president, not a dictator. As much as people want to paint him as that, he has other people that wield power in his administration. But we're going to kind of touch, I figured rather than do an individual piece on each war, we just kind of like knock them all out in one bit here. So let's start here with the Ukraine debacle. And we're going to bring in Alex and Alex from the Durin, because these guys, one of my favorite shows. Thank you, Jimmy Dore, for introducing me to these guys, but one of the best foreign policy.
Zelensky was telling the world that there are a couple of hundred soldiers, Russian soldiers in Pakrovsk, and that the Ukraine military would deal with them. The situation was difficult, but not catastrophic, according to Zelensky. And then we have his bizarre update on Kupiansk, where he said that there were 60 Russian soldiers in Kupiansk, and the Ukraine military just needed a couple of weeks to deal with those 60 soldiers. That doesn't appear to be the situation. That's not the situation. But anyway, the Russian Ministry of Defense, they actually issued a statement saying that Zelensky is divorced from reality. An interesting statement from the Russian Ministry of Defense. Your thoughts on
that's been the case for a long time, as is the United States.
On what he is saying and the real situation in these three areas.
Absolutely. I mean, the Russian Defense Ministry said that it is completely divorced from reality and that there are only two explanations for it. The first is that Zelensky himself believes it, in which case, I mean, he's completely lost touch and connection with what is really happening on the front lines. Or alternatively, and I think that they're right on the second, actually, that he's trying to deceive the Ukrainian people, the Ukrainian army, and above all, the people who the Russian Defense Ministry calls Zelensky's Western sponsors. In other words, the United States, Donald Trump, the Europeans, people of that kind. And I think they're right. I mean, the Russian Defense Ministry are absolutely right about this, because all of the information we're getting from the front lines, from battlefields, tells a completely different story. The diametric.
This got me thinking, the sidebar here. Do you remember that guy, Gonzalo Lira? A lot of people have already forgotten that name, but Gonzalo Lira was an American journalist who was killed by Ukrainians, I believe. Don't quote me on that. I don't know the exact story, but he died like in a jail in Ukraine for trying to report honestly on this. So that's how deep this head in the sand mentality goes here.
Diametrically opposite story to the one that Zelensky is saying. First of all, Pakrovsk, this is the big battle, the biggest battle. The Russians, about 2 weeks ago, 10 days ago, said that they had surrounded the Ukrainian garrison in Pakrovsk. With every day that passes, we can see that that is true, and that the situation of the Ukrainian forces there is deteriorating. Now, the Russians have established what appears to be overall control of Pakrovsk itself. There are Ukrainian troops still in Pakrovsk, but they appear to be mostly holdouts, people who are surrounded in various locations. They're obviously not able to form a unified resistance to the Russians. And there is an still coherent body of Ukrainian troops in this area, which is basically an area that brings in the neighboring town of Mirnograd as well. But it also is clearly surrounded. And it is deterioration. The situation there for these surrounded troops is deteriorating every day. And from what I can tell, the deterioration is accelerating. On one day.
Did you see the video of the Ukrainian kid who's like in his early 20s crying that he doesn't want to die? When I see shit like that, it affects me. Like, we used these people. We used, like, our neocon shit pig warmongering politicians used these people as a pawn, and they lost. It's over. They're not going to beat Russia. And the powers that be that run our dumb fuckery in Washington, D.C. knew that from the start. But as we know, there's a large money funnel in these wars, and that's why, it's still going. And what sucks for Trump, well, it's his fault at this point, is he didn't take a hard line and shut it down, because now it's his war. Before he could realistically make the claim that, oh, this is Biden's war, but now it's his. He's been escalating it. He's allowed it to continue rather than, and I think one of the reasons people thought Trump might be a good option is because he seems like pig-headed enough to say no to those kind of people. Bernie Sanders definitely wouldn't. Hillary Clinton was one of the reasons she got so upset that she lost is because she was trying to do this in the Biden era, you know, I mean, in the first Trump administration, you know, and they ended up getting what they wanted finally when they installed Biden as president. But
the Russians claimed that they'd captured 64 buildings in the Pokrovsk area. Now that suggests a rapid decline of resistance, and I get the sense that actual fighting within the Pokrovsk area is becoming very sporadic, and that the Ukrainian forces there are not resisting very strongly anymore. And in Kupiansk, the situation seems to be actually worse. From what I can see, the Ukrainians there are surrounded too, are surrounded by just the 60 Russian soldiers, presumably that Zelensky's talking about. Well, let's put his irony aside. The Russians have clearly surrounded the Ukrainian soldiers in the Kupiansk area as well. And the Russians unusually have given us a timeline for when they think this is going to be over. They think it'll be over in about a week.
So let's see where this is next week, because it's not looking good. And again, it saddens me that people fell for this shit. Talk about falling for bullshit. Fell for this again. Like, liberals support this. Liberals who were against the Iraq war. Really, really dumb. So that's one of our wars. Now they're trying to start a war with Venezuela. And the more recent news is that Russia has been recruited by Venezuela to provide support. So the peace president here is causing escalations in a number of different arenas. But I think this one might be off the table at this point for a lot of reasons. But let me go to your boys from the Duran once again and give you their take on what's going on in Venezuela currently.
That the Trump White House is, or at least President Trump, is starting to have doubts about some sort of an operation in Venezuela. I have a feeling that a lot of this, or at least the doubts that Trump is having, let's say, about Venezuela, because a lot of military hardware has been moved into the region. A big military buildup in the region. But I have a feeling that a lot of this is connected to the election results from the other day. What are your thoughts on what's happening in Venezuela?
I absolutely. Now, of course, the other thing.
So, great point. The election results the other day, proof that you need to change direction quickly, Mr. Trump. So hopefully this is true.
Thing to say is that we've got to be very careful before we assume that these reports are even true. I mean,
Wall Street Journal. This is what the Wall Street Journal is reporting, yeah.
But it could also be deliberate misdirection of the kind that we've often seen from the Trump White House. I mean, you know, leading the Iranians into a meeting, for example, in Oman, and then attacking them, and leading Hamas into a meeting in Qatar, and then attacking them, and all things of that kind. So we've got to be very, very careful about this. But against that, there are some facts on the ground which just may suggest that there is some truth to this story. And that is that apparently the Gerald Ford, which is the US aircraft carrier that is supposedly, or was supposedly, steaming towards the Caribbean, has now stopped. It's apparently off the coast of Morocco. That's the story that we're getting. And the reports say that it's not moving further towards the Caribbean. And well, I don't know how important a US Navy carrier really is for this operation, but I presume it is very important. And it could be that the fact that this has stopped is a sign that there are indeed doubts, growing doubts about this in the White House and on Trump's part. And this report in the Wall Street Journal is not, by the way, the only report that suggests that Trump himself is having serious doubts about this operation. Now, if he is having doubts about this operation, if he is really dithering, then you're quite right. One has to ask why, because all of the indications were, until very short time ago, that the operation was on. And if you were...
So it might be the election results. That's a very good point. They also made another great point, but let me let them finish.
Assemble a huge fleet, warships and all of that, and bring large numbers of military to a particular place and start to refurbish bases and all of that, then it's very, very difficult to see how you can simply stop a military operation at that point and simply call it off. Because if you do, you're going to lose face. And we know that one thing that Donald Trump doesn't like to do is lose face. You could end up consolidating the Maduro government, because Maduro can turn around and say that, look, Trump is all.
So I think one of the good points they brought up is that the U.S. has no credibility. As you know, thanks to our good friends in the Middle East, we tried to set up peace talks and they bombed them twice, not once, but twice. The first time they did it to, what was it? Was it Yemen or Qatar? So it was, anyway, the Iranians, they did it to the Iranians, and then they tried to do it to the Qataris, but they failed. So if they tried to do this to Venezuela, anyway, the point being is no one trusts us. So
bluff. I out bluffed him. I called his bluff. We don't need to worry. So at that point, people in Venezuela.
And then you have Wiles, who has this firewall around him.
So here they're going to talk about the forces at work in the Trump administration. And I think they touch on a lot of the reason why Trump is going against so much of the stuff that he ran on right here. So listen to what they say.
No. And Kellogg in Ukraine. But I mean, for Venezuela, I think the key person is Rubio, who has an immense amount of power.
Yeah. He's accumulated huge power because, as you rightly say, he's both Secretary of State and National Security Advisor. So he controls information.
I forgot
flows.
about that. They made him the temporary National Security Advisor as well. So he holds two very powerful titles.
Trump, because a lot of the information flow goes to president through the National Security Council. That was supposed to be a temporary decision. That it was all going to be changed once Trump decided on a new national security advisor after he sacked Mike Waltz. But he's never done that. So the result is that Rubio has been left in this outstandingly powerful position, which no U.S. official has held before since the days of Henry Kissinger. I mean, it puts Rubio in this immense
Henry Kissinger, wow,
position of power. And Rubio is an extremely clever political operator, as well as being, by the way, a dyed-in-the-wool neocon. I mean, he's neocon to his fingertips. He knows how to say things that, please Trump. But the advice he always gives ultimately is pure neocon advice. So the problem that Trump has is to break this circle of people that he's created around himself is going to be very difficult anyway, even if he has the inclination and desire to do it. And of course, he might not. I mean, he might be very happy with these people. He might be thinking that they're giving him excellent advice. So you're absolutely right. I mean, he has to start listening. In theory, he should start listening to others. Those others are there. They've always been there, but he's never really wanted to listen to them. Because as you absolutely rightly say, throughout his entire career, ever since he became president of the United States for the first time in 2017, he has always repeatedly gone out of his way to embrace the hardliners, neocons, people who ultimately despise him and quietly will always work to sabotage whatever agenda, anti-neocon agenda, he might claim to endorse. And
there you go. And that's what Candace and Dave were talking about earlier. The never Trumpers have infiltrated the Trump administration, and you're right back to square one. The people that didn't want him, that fought him every step of the way, are now in his administration, hamstringing any of the stuff he ran on. And that's how it works. The same thing happened to Obama. The same thing happened to Bill Clinton, I'm sure. The same thing happened to Biden even. Biden ran on a bunch of stuff that, and listen, I talk a lot of shit about Biden. He wasn't really in control, but his administration did a couple decent things. They definitely, like the student loan thing and a couple things that they did that were reasonably sane. But let's keep going, because we've already touched on Ukraine and Venezuela. There's a third war brewing. I don't know if you've heard about this or not, but with Nigeria. So this is actually from Napolitano's intelligence roundtable with Ray McGovern, and I forget the other guy's name, but listen to what they say about this. It's good.
It continues to allow the killing of Christians. The USA will immediately stop all aid and assistance to Nigeria.
So Trump, okay, correct me if I'm going to start this over, but I want you to listen to this and tell me if I'm tripping here. Recently, Trump has developed almost like a lisp. It sounds like he's slurring his speech, or like his dentures are about to fall out or something. Listen to the way he talks. I'm going to back this up, and just listen.
We're going to do
listen to.
If the Nigerian government continues to allow the killing of Christians, the USA will immediately stop all aid and assistance to Nigeria. We're going to do things to Nigeria that Nigeria is not going to be happy about, and may very well go into that now disgraced country, guns a-blazing, to completely wipe out the Islamic terrorists who are committing these horrible, horrible atrocities. I'm hereby instructing our Department of War to prepare for possible action. If we attack, it will be fast, vicious, and sweet, just like the terrorist thugs attack our cherished Christians. These are cherished people. These are great people. Leave them alone. Warning, the Nigerian government better move fast before it's too late. If they don't, there's going to be hell to pay.
Long careers. Have you ever heard a president speak like that? We're coming in with guns a-blazing.
I have not. And I've had a long career with him, older than Larry at least. No, I mean, this is a joint Zionist and Christian crusade, if you will. I mean, the Muslims, they're the target. They're the ones that we started crusades with in the Middle Ages or the Dark Ages. So, I think he's getting this from his Minister of War or Secretary of War, Hexeth. He's a sort of deranged kind of person who thinks he's that the Christians have to do what the Old Testament says because the Jew, blah, 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 blah. They don't understand it. So here you have the President of the United States threatening to go into Nigeria, threatening to go into Venezuela. Oh, there are a lot of Christians in Venezuela. Well, he's deranged, okay? And if I'm Putin, if I'm a Russian leader and I'm looking at all this, I'm saying, oh my God, let's not provoke this person. Let's play it cool here. And what Putin has been doing is very adroit and appearing very, very, very strong, but also willing to deal. So will that ever happen? I don't know who can predict what Trump is going to do. And Trump, let's face it, is the fly in the ointment here against developing a decent Russian-American relationship, which Trump says he wants to do. Putin really wants to do, but not against these odds. So what we've seen this past week has been a very kind of circumspect way. How are we going to reply to these tests? We can't even get a straight answer from the White House whether he means nuclear tests.
Larry, Ray raises a good point, but let me ask you this.
So that's a third front they're trying to open, and McGovern made a great point there. It's almost like a new crusade against Muslims. I wonder why. What kind of lobby in our government would have a vendetta against Muslims? Interesting to think about, isn't it? Well, there's one more piece of video in this, and I think it's probably the crowning jewel of this segment here. And this is the update on the war in Gaza, the fourth war that America is involved in under the quote-unquote peace president. And this clip gives me hope because, like I said at the outset of this, the political paradigm of left and right is falling away. People can see that it's a shell game designed to keep us fighting each other instead of coming together on issues that would actually make the country better. And this is just, I'm sure you've seen this, but I'm going to play it again. This is Trump's kids being called out at a Turning Point event on the elephant in the room, or should I say the elephant in the Middle East.
Out video of the week.
I'd like to ask about your father's relationship with Israel. He's taken over $230 million from pro-Israel groups. During the summer against Iran, even though he advised against it, Israel still attacked Iran. Israel has not been a great ally to the U.S. all the way since 1960 when they bombed the USS Liberty. Israel is a nation where Christians are constantly under attack in both Gaza and the West Bank. We talk about America first and defending Christians, but how can we do this if we align ourselves with a nation that does not do that itself?
There's no question my father's had frustration. In fact, I think he's had frustration throughout the whole conflict with both sides. At the same time,
Make no mistake.
Both sides.
You have a nation that will develop a nuclear weapon, and you have a nation that will use that nuclear weapon against the Western way of life. There's no question about it.
In response to the nukes from Iran, Israel has nuclear weapons and is not a part of the IAEA, unlike Iran. And it's just sad to see because I've never seen the American president get treated the way he does by the Israeli government.
This
Okay. Hold on. Let me let
is
her
a
finish.
president of peace. And sometimes you have to be slightly unconventional with how you get there. You use what you have. That is certainly what he's been able to do. Peace around the world sounds pretty good to me, and that's what this president is bringing.
Okay. A couple of things I want to say about that before I let them finish. First of all, there's a couple things I love about this. First of all, this guy sounds like a lefty, and he's clearly not. He's at a turning point event. So that barrier has been broken. The second thing is these are Trump's children, his son and daughter-in-law. So he's going to hear this. He's going to see this footage. They're going to talk about it at dinner, whatever. So the people are breaking through to some extent. And as the guys from the Durham were saying, he's got people around him feeding him bullshit. And listen, I'm not saying that, he's not guilty. Like the whole point of him was supposed to be that he was going to have the balls to stand up to that. But this is a good development. Let me let these guys finish with their commentary.
Coming out of the mouth of a young man and two deer in the headlights on the stage, Ray McGovern.
Well, this is what we need more of. You may recall that, there was another video, my favorite, where a very accomplished intelligence analyst interrupted John Brennan and asked him some real questions at this James Madison University, which is supposed to be sacrosanct, talking about CIA leaders. He embarrassed him. And first thing Brennan did after listening says, "Who put you up to that? Who you went? I don't." And then there became an actual confrontation where this fellow, his name is Speciale, okay, good.
So if Kamala, I just want to, you've probably seen that footage, but that's it. I just want to say again, if Kamala had been elected, John Brennan would be part of her administration. He wouldn't have been indicted for Russiagate, and things would be continuing comfortably down the path they're on without any pushback whatsoever. So what's going on right now is good. I'm happy to see it. And, it's like I said, this is going to get back to Trump. And if he doesn't make a change, the Republicans are going to get smashed in the midterms. And then it's really going to be a problem for him. So we're going to see what happens in the coming months. Like I said, he hasn't even been president for a year yet. And it takes a while to staff up once you become president, once you're inaugurated too. So there's still a lot of dynamics. The fact that he fired Waltz is a step in the right direction. The fact that he has Tulsi Gabbard in his administration is a step in the right direction. So there are some glimmers of hope here, despite, the current state of things, which is pretty fucking, it's pretty fucking depressing. It's pretty, sad. But the last piece of media I have to share with you, the last kind of topic of the night, we're going to come full circle back to election night, because a big thing happened Tuesday. Two big things happened, and one of them kind of went under the radar because of the election. Zoran Mamdani won mayor of New York, and on that same day, Dick Cheney died. A lot of people thought Dick Cheney was probably already dead, but it was very telling. The Democrats have been very telling over the last couple of years, because if you remember, they ran with Liz Cheney on their side in the last election cycle. One of the reasons I'm sure they lost. But let's get into the nuance of this, because there's a lot here to unpack. And calling people Nazis or communists, it just has to stop unless you have real evidence for it. But let's start right here. So this is a tweet I put out the other day in relation to Zoran's win, and no one saw it because I'm shadow banned on Twitter. But what I said was, Zoran's win tonight is proof that Bernie Sanders would have been president if the Democrats hadn't cheated him in their primary twice. Congrats on that, Democrats. Also, congrats to Trump for immediately forcing independence back to the Dems because he's Netanyahu's bitch. So that's kind of the start of it. And if you saw the dynamic with Mamdani, the absolute meltdown that people had, you're as happy as I am that he won. And one of the biggest meltdowns came from a guy named Bill Ackman, who spent a ton of money to try and prevent this guy from winning. But look at what happened when he won. This is Mel, Village Crazy Lady. She says, this guy went from acting like Mamdani was going out to import ISIS to extending a friendly handshake in like 6 hours. During election cycles, it helps to remember most of the people pumping hysterical partisan propaganda into your feed are literal sociopaths. Here's Ackman. Zoran, congrats on the win. Now you have a big responsibility. If I can help NYC, just let me know what I can do. Two things about this. One, it tells you a lot. And I think Americans are wise to it because he won. They ignored the propaganda. For the most part, Americans are wise to it. I'm not so sure about the boomers yet, but a lot of them are wise to it too. And then the second thing here is that good on Bill Ackman. You know, he recognizes that he lost the debate and he's being conciliatory. And you know, say what you want about Bill Ackman or billionaires or whatever. Now, the cynical side of me is like, oh, okay, now he's going to work his magic. Now that the guy won, he'll influence policy with his money in other ways, or infiltrate the guy's administration and try to fuck him more. But who knows? Let's just assume that Bill's motives are good at the moment, you know. So let's switch gears now to Dick Cheney, because another thing that I said when this happened was it's going to be interesting to watch the Democrats who fought Mamdani eulogize Dick Cheney on, you know, the same day that, so here's the tweet I put out around this is, endorse the socialist in NY Obama? No. Eulogize war pig Dick Cheney? Oh yeah. And here you go. Well, hold on a sec. Here, first of all, here's the New York Times. But let me go back to Obama here. This is Obama's Facebook post. The guy who refused to endorse Zoran Mamdani praising Dick Cheney. Just telling you what the Democrats are all about. Although Dick Cheney and I represented very different political traditions, I respected his lifelong devotion to public service and his deep love of country. Michelle and I extend our deepest condolences to his family. I don't do a good Obama, but I don't know if you know this either, but Barack Obama is Dick Cheney's cousin. And I posted this on Twitter because a lot of people didn't know this. But just to show you the receipts here, this is a Reuters article from the election cycle back when Obama was running. Cheney, Obama and Cheney are distant cousins, Mrs. Cheney, and this is from October 16th of 2007, right before Obama was elected. There's no sign of a family reunion plan, but U.S. Vice President Dick Cheney and Democratic presidential candidate Barack Obama are distant cousins. So says the vice president's wife, Lynn Cheney, who said she discovered that her husband of 43 years is eighth cousins with the senator from Illinois. Two men could hardly be more different. Cheney's an advocate for pursuing the war in Iraq to try to destabilize the country, while Obama wants to get U.S. troops out of Iraq. That was before the election, so that changed real fast once he got in there, didn't it? Anyway, here's how the New York Times eulogized this. Props to Bryce here for posting this. NYT obituary for Cheney is a crazy piece of propaganda, not a single criticism of his murderous policies, full acceptance of his alleged desire to defend the Constitution. They also claim he wanted to expand democracy around the world. It comes to be expected. You know, this is the establishment. This is why the Democrats ran with him. And it goes back to the first segment earlier where we talked about the divide in both parties and the Republicans, you know, fighting fiercely to shed this neocon element of their party. But it's so entrenched that it's going to take time if it happens at all. And so there's a lot of basically, political rhetoric around both the right and the left. At the beginning of this, I talked about how Candace Owens was being smeared as the new face of white supremacy by, the powers of the establishment forces. And so you have Candace being called a Nazi for, speaking out against the war in Gaza. But on the left, you also have people calling people Nazis. So it's kind of a dynamic now where you have the part of the right, the establishment part of the right, loves to call people Nazis. And then you have the establishment part of the left who also loves to call people Nazis. So this is one of the things that I think the mainstream party can come together on. And I made this Venn diagram just to illustrate it. Leftists and AIPAC overlap right here on calling everyone Nazis. And let's get into the receipts. So when Zoran won, or before Zoran won, people were, trying to associate him with Nazis because he's critical of our good friend in the Middle East. And I tried to remind people of what happened during the Bernie era. So I said, normal people watching dumb fucks clutching their pearls and pretending he's a Nazi again because they're the most retarded and easily propagandized morons. And hey, guess what? Bernie Sanders is a Nazi, you absolute retards. So this is from back when Bernie Sanders started to win. The ADL, of course, put out, propaganda or stood someone up at his rally saying that he was a Nazi. And I'm going to jump over. There was a scandal this week right after Zoran was elected. And you probably saw it. But right off the bat, as soon as he won the election, all of a sudden swastikas started popping up around New York. And of course, there were a lot of people that right off the bat were like, oh God, this is terrible. And the governor came out and apologized about it. But here's how that played out. If you didn't see, because I doubt this made mainstream news. Maybe I'm wrong about that, but I don't think this was displayed on CNN. So check this out. Here is a post from the New York Post Metro. Fedora wearing bicyclist who scrawled swastikas at NYC yeshiva caught on video. Interesting, isn't it? Let's go into the comments on this. Because I love the comments on these. Doesn't look like a Muslim. Fedora. What kind of community in NYC loves wearing black brimmed hats? We may never know. Wait, I still see swastikas on there. Fedora? Yeah. See, I love that. That's how they the headline says Fedora, and all these people in the comments are like, Fedora my ass. So that's where we're at with this kind of stuff. But I have more for you. Here is the Babylon Bee calling Palestinian protesters Nazis, of course, because why not? People are going to buy that, right? This is one of their dumb, supposed to be funny articles. Palestinian protester tries to argue with skinhead, but they just agree on everything. To which I replied with my Venn diagram. But here's another, accusation of Nazism by your boy Ted Cruz against Nick Fuentes. Just to be clear, I called Nick Fuentes a little Nazi, not as an empty epithet, but rather as an accurate description of what he says he believes. Receipts. And so here is the receipts that Ted Cruz purports to have right here. Trump's bombing the Ayatollah's nuclear facilities made the little Nazi mad. Good. At the Republican Jewish Coalition, Ted Cruz says that he repeatedly begged Trump to bomb Iran for weeks. Don't let the 7K Club gaslight you into thinking that their attacks on Tucker Carlson and me are anti-Semitism. And that's why Ted Cruz called Nick Fuentes a Nazi. But it gets better. Here's a tweet from Ted Cruz from back in Oh, the irony. From what, November 1st? They don't kill you because you're a Nazi. They call you a Nazi so they can kill you. Political violence is a left-wing phenomenon. Enough is enough. We need to shut it down. And it's just very stupid. So I want to end on this note. Last night I happened to tune into Bill Maher, and he had Bill O'Reilly and Senator Jared Moskowitz from Florida, who's a Democrat. And of course, they bloviated about the most out of touch stupid things you could imagine. I wish I had saved clips from it so I could talk more about them. But if you know who Bill Maher is, you know that he's an out of touch, Hollywood guy who doesn't really think too much on things. He just recites what Netanyahu tells him to recite. And I want to show you this clip of him going after Nick Fuentes because it's relevant, because he's attacking a kid as a Nazi. And it would be funny if it wasn't so sad. But here's what Bill had to say.
Issue this week, and we're going to talk about it after I do this. Let me introduce this issue, because I almost didn't want to talk about this person because he's so gross, but it's such a big issue this week, and we're going to talk about it after I do this bit. But this guy, Nick Fuentes, I don't know if you've ever heard of him. If you haven't, I mean, I have. I know he had dinner with Trump at one point, and Trump is, I don't know him. I have my picture taken with a lot of
There
people.
it is, America's next top Nazi. How do we keep people with dissenting viewpoints out of the debate? By calling them a racist.
But I would call a racist. He's this troll. He's the guy who runs on the field at a baseball game that you don't really want to, so you don't take the picture of him, but we kind of have to talk about him.
Does that mean we can beat him up?
I would like to.
That's what happens when you run on the field with the baseball.
He's what they call a groiper. I looked into this. It's just like this group.
It's funny, too, because I've said this before. Violence is a dumb person's response. And again, just like calling someone a Nazi, it's a way to avoid actually debating them on the merits of the things they're saying. Notice they're not bringing up any of the things he says. They're just calling him a Nazi and saying they want to beat him up.
Group of people on 4chan, the internet, which makes everything worse. And they are like...
Very boomer take there, too. The internet makes everything worse. Again, this is why the Democrats lost in the last cycle, because of this type of mentality. Let's just stick our heads in the sand and cling to our legacy media that we still control.
Pointlessly politically incorrect. They were doing it just to troll. They would say the worst sort of awful things or things you don't even understand.
But it's working.
He once said, having sex with a woman is gay and having sex with a man is gay. Okay, I don't know where you go with that.
Okay, what's the context of that? I would like to see it. But Nick responded, and it's a very quick response. So I'm just going to show you that real quick.
It's like 60-year-old people say
let me start that over because StreamYard's kind of slow.
I love watching these 60-year-old people say so well, I don't even get it. Is it political? I don't get it. Is it like 4chan? It's like the internet. The internet sucks. Whatever. He wants to beat me up. What are you, 5'4"? What are you, 5'4" Jewish pervert? Bring it on.
Yo, we here now. Stupid.
So I again go back to my Venn diagram here. Ted Cruz and Bill Maher on the same page. I don't know if I'd necessarily call Bill a leftist, but a lot of leftists do call everyone a Nazi. And this is a very accurate diagram. And I'd like to pat myself on the back for coming up with this, because it's just... Anyway, that's about it for today. Let's go to the comments real quick. Not a lot, but Venezuela is not going to be Iraq, Gaza, etc. Let's hope not, because if the U.S. attempts to invade in Venezuela, it would be a very, very stupid thing to do, for a lot of reasons. But second of all, I mean, the world is already kind of uniting against us for the most part. You got Iran, you got BRICS, you got Iran and China and Russia kind of teaming up. And, listen, I'm an American. I'm a proud American, despite the shit show that's been going on in the last couple of years. This is my country, and, I care about it. And I don't want to see us doing stupid things on the world stage, but it doesn't matter what I think. We're apparently going to keep doing stupid things on the world stage. But I will say this. We have this mentality that like, we're number one, we're the best. And I don't think that's the case anymore. Russia is a very intelligent country. If you remember, they beat us into space with Sputnik. They're a country of, hacking wizards and mathematicians. They're like white Asians. Russia is not stupid. I think they have better weapons than we do. And I don't think it would be a smart maneuver for us to try to go to war with Russia. Second of all, the idea that Russia is this like communist country is a joke. It hasn't been communist since the fall of the USSR in the 80s. They've had some tough times, but it's really stupid. And I just hope that the cooler heads will prevail. The Tulsi Gabbers of the administration will prevail. And, the fact that people like Candace Owens and Dave Smith are so popular in right-wing circles gives me a lot of hope. Because if you listen to them talk, they sound almost like, the most militant leftists. And it kind of reminds me, I used to run a page called on Facebook called Conservative Memes for Militant Leftists. And this is always the direction I was heading, because when the Bernie thing happened, I realized the populism thing is what's important, not the left-right dynamic. We can disagree on the nuance of things like trans bathrooms or, global warming, whatever. But the idea that we should spend our own money on us is the key here. And I want to end with one last tweet of mine, which I thought was brilliant, which didn't get seen. I'm just going to stroke myself a little bit here. But I don't get views on my shit. But I was responding to Rob Schneider because Rob Schneider was out here quoting Ayn Rand about something. And it got me thinking, what he was quoting her about was free stuff. He was, there's this conservative line that the Bernie people and the socialism people just want free stuff. They just want free stuff. They want the government to take care of them. That's all these people want. They just want free stuff. Well, here is my dictionary definition of free stuff for you. Free stuff, noun. When taxpayers want their money to be spent on things they actually benefit from, instead of funneling it to war pigs in Israel, Ukraine, South America, etc. So when anyone ever brings up free stuff to you, just hit them with that. Free. We know it's not free, you dumb fucks. We know it's not free. We just want the money that we're paying annually in taxes to actually benefit us. That's not free stuff, you dumb people. And again, these people are disingenuous. They don't really mean this stuff. It's a political trope. It's how they whip their dumbass base into a frenzy. And there are, despite the uprising on the right, there still are a lot of dumb people that believe that. Trickle-down economics. Reaganomics is the way to freedom and prosperity. Because we've been doing that since the 80s and it's worked so well. How stupid do you have to be? But in solidarity with my populist right-wing brothers and sisters, I'm going to close out the show tonight with one of my favorite bits that I did, which is about how white rural voters are a threat to democracy. And if you ever tune in, I'm sure you've seen this before, but you're going to see it again because I'm going to show it to you. Where did it go? Oh, wow. I forgot I had. Let me play this first. I forgot he said this is in my intro, but
Nick said, I think that's right. I mean, there is no Democratic establishment anymore.
So I want to preface this clip real quick while I'm looking for the other one, because this is such a great clip, and I filmed it with my phone off the TV during the Bernie campaign years ago. And this was the panic on MSNBC when Bernie started winning primaries. Listen to how this guy responds.
There's not even a Democratic Party anymore. The Democratic Party is a meaningless notion. That the party, like the Republican Party, has been hollowed out and privatized to a large extent. There are Democratic elites, and so when we talk about the Democratic establishment, we're really talking about a bunch of people that Nick also knows well, which really means Democratic donors. And Democratic donors are freaking out over the prospect of a socialist. I would say if you talk to the average Democratic donor, big money donor, not small dollar donor, in New York City, they are almost as concerned, if not equally concerned, about Bernie Sanders being the nominee as they are about beating Donald Trump. And Sanders poses an incredibly intense threat to that. I think, as Nick said, right now, I will lean into this, Nicole. I think, it's a jump ball here, but there's a candidate who's the tallest candidate on the court right now, and that's Bernie Sanders at this moment. Now, that doesn't mean he will get the tip, but he's the tallest candidate on the court coming into the caucus tonight. And if he wins here tonight and goes to New Hampshire, where he won in 2016 by 22 points, and is leading by double digits over everybody else in that state, he could easily win the first two contests. He's running neck and neck with Joe Biden right now in Nevada. So a world where Bernie Sanders wins the first 3 of the 4 early states is a world where he is a freight train coming out of February. And if you think the Democratic donors, the Democratic elite, the Democratic establishment, whatever the phrase you want to use, but the people who think they run the Democratic Party and used to run the Democratic Party, if you think they're freaking out right now, give me a call on the eve of Super Tuesday when Bernie Sanders, with that wind at his back and with a money machine, a low-dollar donor machine that will give him almost unlimited resources to compete all the way through, not just June, but all the way to the convention.
So that, just a quick flashback for you to 2015. Those are the people who stopped Bernie Sanders from becoming president, and we got Trump as a result of them. And the fact that, fast forward to last week, the fact that Zoran Mamdani won in New York last week. He said it right there. Democratic donors in New York are shivering. And this was 10 years ago in 2015 when Bernie was winning. So the fact that it's come full circle and New York City now has a socialist mayor is massive. So that's my gift to my left-leaning brothers and sisters on the way out. But here is my gift to my right-leaning brothers and sisters on the way out. This is my takedown of MSNBC. Voters are a threat to democracy. Thank you for joining me today, guys. I really appreciate everyone for tuning in. Like and subscribe if you haven't already. And God bless you out there. Take good care of yourselves. We'll see you next week. Voters are a threat to democracy.
Are white rural voters a threat to democracy at this point? Voters, a threat to democracy. 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 White rural voters. White rural voters. White rural voters. The threat to American democracy. Voters, a threat to 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 democracy. White rural voters. White rural voters. White rural voters. White rural voters. Why are white rural voters a threat to democracy at this point? Voters, a threat to democracy. 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 White rural voters. White rural voters. White rural voters. The threat to American democracy.